On episode 264 of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we meet Dr. Phil Carson and discuss his book, How to Live Until You Die. You can find the full show notes for this episode at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/264. Have you decided you're ready to make a change? To reclaim your health and fitness? The 40 Plus Fitness Podcast is here for you. I'm your host, Alan Meisner. I'm an NSAM certified personal trainer with a specialization in corrective exercise and fitness nutrition. Let me be your coach as you find your way on your health and fitness journey. All right, let's go. We're right in the middle of holiday season during the summer, a time when a lot of us are getting out, spending some time with friends and family, and I do hope you're doing so. This is a good time for most of us to get out and do some things like that, be it in the United States with the 4th of July weekend, which is ongoing, some other holidays around the world. I know there's a Stampede coming up in Calgary, where they actually have a big rodeo and a big parade, and they get days off from work so they can attend these things. So it's a kind of a big deal. And I know a lot of us are in this holiday season, or we're taking vacation and doing some things with, and those are important. And I really do want to stress that you take that time off. And so for like the next couple of episodes, because I am also taking some time off to travel with my wife. We're going to go do some sightseeing in Washington, D.C. And up in Boston. And then I'll be over at Keto Fest. And so I'll be teaching some group fitness classes. If you're interested in keto at all and you can make it up to New London, Connecticut on July 15th and 16th, I'd encourage you to go ahead and sign up. There's actually still some slots for my fitness classes. I think with all the other activities that are going on Saturday with Segway tours and walking tours and a big pig roast and everything, I think a lot of folks are maybe not wanting to do the fitness classes, but if it's something you're interested in, go ahead and sign up for Keto Fest. Come up and join me. We'll have a lot of fun, and I'd love to meet you. But to kind of get back onto my topic of taking time off and spending time, I'm going to live the talk, and walk the walk, and what I'm going to do is make sure that I'm off for those 2 weeks. So I'll be pre-recording episodes. I've been doing some of that, and I'll have those already pre-recorded. So my weekly updates will be a little bit dated as I kind of go through those 2 weeks. I just wanted to let you know, and I'll remind you as we go in that's why those updates are not quite what they are. But I want you to make sure that you're taking time off for yourself. Rest and recovery are just as important as the work phase. So, making sure that you're taking time for yourself, building social relationships. I was interviewing someone yesterday about healing, and that was one of the big aspects of kind of making sure that you're healing properly or aging properly, is making sure that you kind of have those social and spiritual and personal things kind of under tow, and you understand them, and you're taking time for yourself. So many times we think we don't have the time to do the meditation, to take the time off, to just not be going, and we really need those times for us to heal properly, for us to be stronger. So make sure that you are taking that time. I also wanted to kind of update you. I told you I would keep you up to date with what's going on with my shoulder injury, because I think there's a lot of lessons to learn. I know I certainly have as I went through that. And right now I went in to see the doctor this week, and he diagnosed me with a tear of my rotator cuff. And so what we're going to do is next week I will go in for an MRI. And when I get that MRI results a few weeks later, when I get back off of my vacation time, then we'll sit down and we'll make decisions on what goes next. But, occasionally as we're doing training, if we're going to physically train, even when we're trying to really use good form and do things right, there's just the possibility of a tear. And in fact, he was telling me that they did a study of cadavers of men over 40. Over 90. And they looked at the men over 90 and found that all of them had a tear in their rotator cuff. And he said, basically what happens is the labrum, which is that little bone on the end of your shoulder, it can form little deposits on it, and that's like kind of a shearing force. And so as you're doing things with your shoulders, as you're working out, there's a little bit of a shearing force on the muscle body. There's 4 of them that make up that rotator cuff. And he said basically what's happened is over the years I've sheared that down to a point that when I put a particular strain in a particular way on that muscle, the muscle basically snapped, for lack of a better word. And so at this point, he believes that I do have a tear there. The MRI will confirm that, and then we can make some decisions for the next steps. But it's 2 things that I want to mention there is that injuries are possible even when you're using the best of form. But it is important for you to make sure that you continue to use good form, because quite frankly, if you don't use good form, you are going to face injuries. There's a 100% chance if you're using poor form that you're going to end up hurting yourself. If you're using good form, you're minimizing the risk of doing this work. But reality is you could reach down to grab a bag of groceries and hurt yourself. So you just have to realize that all physical activity does carry some level of risk, but it's an investment. It's a risk that you should be willing to take if you're using good form. And then the other aspect of this is when you do find yourself injured, you need to rest that body part. A muscle will effectively heal itself. If it's just a pull, a muscle will heal itself within a couple weeks, and you'll feel significant difference in just 2 weeks. Now, I went 3 weeks without working the muscle and realized I was still in pain. I was in pain when I was asleep. I was in pain most of the time. If I moved my shoulder in any given way, it hurt. And so I knew that, okay, this is beyond just a muscle strain. It's not healing. That's when I went ahead and sought a doctor, because at that point, rest is not going to fix this. Time is not going to fix this. And in fact, because I have been very limited in the motion of that arm, I'm starting to lose some mobility in the shoulder. And so he's recognizing we do need to do something on this pretty quickly so that I can get it put back together, and then I can start some physical therapy to recondition and regain the mobility that I need in my shoulder joint. And so only wanted to say those 2 things, keep you up to date on what's going on with my injury and trying to work through this injury. I am not working out through this injury, not with my shoulders. I am doing exercises that do not inflame that joint. So, I'm still working back. I'm still going to work chest. I'm still going to work legs, and I'm working them very hard. But I'm being very, very careful to pick exercises that are not going to hurt my shoulder. And if you're going to try to continue to work out around an injury, which I think you can reasonably do, it's better and easier to do when you have a trainer, which I do. So again, talking to my trainer, we can prescribe and put together workouts. And if there's an exercise that I start doing and it feels uncomfortable, I'm like, nope, let's find an alternate way to do this. And we find an alternate way to hit the muscle group that we want to hit for that day without aggravating my shoulder. So just thought I'd keep you up to date there. And now we're going to get into our guest today and his book, How to Live Until You Die. I really enjoyed this conversation with Dr. Phil. So let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Phil. He is the president of Carson Natural Health and the co-founder of the Life Transformation Medical Center. He's a pharmacist registered in Mississippi, but he's actually an advocate for integrative natural solutions. So this is not a doctor, not a pharmacist doctor that believes that you should be using pills to cure all your ills. So I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. So with no further ado, here's Dr. Phil. So Dr. Phil, welcome to 40 Plus Fitness.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Alan. I really appreciate you having me on the show today. It's an honor to be with you today.
Well, I really enjoyed the book. And the title of it's kind of catching when you how to live until you die. I really like that title as well. It was kind of one of those things to say when I saw the book and got the book, I was like, okay, this is going to be something I'm going to really enjoy, and I did immensely.
Well, I appreciate that. That means a lot.
Now, you had a quote in the book, and it's credited to Anonymous. He does a lot of these quotes.
Yeah.
And it's the key to keeping your balance is knowing when you've lost it.
Yeah.
And that really kind of struck home to me because, in my journey to get my health and fitness back, that was one of the balance pieces that I'd lost. You know, I was doing great in my career. You know, other things were working well, but my relationships with people and my health and fitness really just weren't there. And it was that realization that I had lost that balance and needed to figure out how to get it back that really helped. And I think the core of it was I didn't have your news acronym in my head at the time, but and I want to talk about that acronym because I do think that's a very powerful way to express this. But again, it's just one of those things of recognizing that how important balance is to your overall life. I mean, you can be super, super fit, but other things not working in your life and you're no good. Or like I was, you can be doing really, really well in your career, but other things aren't happening for you. And you're not there. Your life is not what you need it to be.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's something, Alan, that I stress to my clients that I coach all the time is that balance, and that's a lot of what's in the book is balance and how we need to try to keep everything in the proper balance, our bodies, our souls, our spirits, and so many people get out of balance in their lives, and I don't know that we can ever get in perfect balance, but it's something we need to strive for. Something that we need to be working at and trying to keep everything in balance that we possibly can. And I tell people this all the time: the whole universe is designed to stay in proper balance. And if anything gets out of balance, poof, we could be gone, and in a flash. So it's important that we keep our bodies, our souls, our spirits in a proper balance. And a lot of the sickness that people are dealing with today, the chronic illnesses that people are dealing with today that we see so prevalent here in the deep South where I live here in Mississippi. It's horrible. And it's all because of imbalance a lot of times, the people not eating properly and not exercising, not keeping that balance that they need to be keeping and not doing the right things. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of that, and it's something that people don't recognize and people don't acknowledge. I have people sit across the desk from me quite often, and we're talking about stress. Stress is the major thing in people's lives. It's been a major thing in my life, and what's created a lot of problems in my life over the years, and sickness in my life as well. But people sit across from me and we talk about stress, and I say, okay, tell me about stress. Are you stressed? Are you, how are you handling stress? Well, I'm not stressed. They don't recognize that they are, because when they start telling me all these things that's going on in their life, they're telling me about the stress in their life, but they don't acknowledge that it's there.
Yeah.
And so, I see that quite often.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something as simple as buying and selling houses, moving. You don't. A lot of people just think, okay, well, that's just what you do, and you're doing it, but they don't recognize how disjointing that is, and how that really kind of puts pressure on our bodies. And if we're not managing that, it accumulates and causes us problems down the line. Now, I've used tools like Life Audit and things like that in the past, but to do a lot of what you're doing here with this book. But I guess you use the acronym NEWS, and I really like simple, executable things. Can you talk about the acronym, what each piece of it is, and a little bit about how we would use that to check our balance?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but NEWS is the acronym for nutrition, exercise, water, sleep, supplements, soul, and spirit. So with the first 5 there, we're taking care of the body. With soul, we're taking care of the mind, the will, the emotions, and then the spirit, of course, of our spirit man, our spiritual nature that we take care of. And it's all of them, incorporating all things in what I believe is our 3-part being. And nutrition is where I start. With all my clients, I start with nutrition, because we've got to be putting the right things in our body. We've got to be eating right. We've got to have our bodies have to have the nutrients that they need to keep all the systems, all the organs, all the glands working properly like they're supposed to be. And what I find, Alan, in my work that I've done over the years in coaching people with holistic medicine and functional medicine, natural products, natural therapies, is that so many of the health issues that people are dealing with are based upon, are caused rather, because of deficiencies, nutritional deficiencies that need to be corrected. And a lot of time, when we correct those nutritional deficiencies, a lot of time we correct the underlying problem that they've been dealing with for ever how long, that nobody's addressed. And that's one of the problems with our healthcare system today is nobody's addressing these things. Nobody's looking at the underlying causes. We typically say, okay, well, you've got this. Here's a prescription for it. Take this, and hopefully you'll get better. But we want to find the underlying root cause, and a lot of times it is nutrient deficiencies.
Yeah.
And another thing, exercise. People are not being physically active enough, and I'm thankful that there are people out there like you that are encouraging people to do that, teaching people how to do that, they can do that, and how to do it right. And that's something that I encourage people in the book is, start. People say, well, I don't have time to exercise, or I can't do these exercises, I can't do this, can't do that. Well, there's things that we all can do, regardless of, what kind of shape we're in. We just need to start somewhere. And, I talk about that and talk about how we need to be more physically active, even if it's just a simple thing of getting out and taking walks every day. That's physical activity. That's physical exercise. It's being more active, and if you can be part of a consistent exercise routine, that's what you need to do. And that's one of the things that I stress to people. Whatever you do, whatever you like to do, whatever you're comfortable doing, do it consistently, and over a period of time, it makes a difference, and can improve your health dramatically. And then something that I harp on all the time is water. I tell people you've got to keep your body hydrated. You're 60 to 70% water. You've got to have water. Hydration is so important. And there's so many people that I've coached and counseled with that are dehydrated and they don't even know it. They're suffering from dehydration or the effects of dehydration. They don't even know it. They're not drinking water. Some people are not drinking any at all. Most people are just not drinking enough. So we've got to have the water, and good, clean, pure water. Sleep is another is the first S of the 4 S's that I talk about, and sleep is extremely important for our health. And if there are those people out there that are wanting to maintain weight or lose weight, sleep is extremely important. And we're as a whole, as a nation, our sleep is messed up, so to speak. Yeah, a lot of people have trouble going to sleep. They have trouble staying asleep. They don't sleep long enough, and some people sleep too much. But that's not very many. But there are some major sleep issues that people are dealing with. And as a pharmacist over the years, when I was actually actively practicing pharmacy and behind the counter, oh man, that was one of the things I hated to see, was people going on these powerful sleep aids, these drugs that have just horrible side effects, and then people becoming dependent upon them. And getting addicted to them. It's a horrible cycle when there are many underlying causes for sleep issues. And one of those I mentioned a moment ago is the stress. The stress in people's lives disrupts the circadian rhythm, and by disrupting the adrenal glands and causing people sleep problems. Those are things that can be corrected, that are not being looked at, not being addressed, by the traditional medicine. And then another the next S is supplements. One of my favorite to talk about, because a lot of people take supplements. Some people are taking a handful of supplements every day, like I do. Some people are taking none. But the people who are taking supplements, the most of them, majority of people, are taking what I call junk. Supplements that are synthetic, they're not real nutrients, and besides that, they're loaded with all kinds of chemicals, preservatives, artificial dyes, artificial sweeteners. Most of the supplement products out there on the market, Alan, are just pure junk, and I tell people you need to throw them away. I'm a big proponent of using food source nutrients, and most of what's out there, like I said, is synthetic. It's not real nutrients, not real vitamins, not real minerals. Where our bodies are designed to get our nutrients from food, but when we don't have a food supply that provides us with all those nutrients that we need, then we have to supplement. But if you're going to have to supplement, then you need to use, in my opinion, as close to food source as you can get.
Yeah.
So something that I harp on and preach on, so to speak, all the time to people about these supplements and the horrible stuff that's out there on the market. And then we've got the soul and the spirit that a lot of people consider sometimes could go hand in hand, so to speak. But the soul is our mind, our will, our emotions, and so many people are suffering today physically because they are soul sick. They have some type of emotional trauma that's happened in their life, or they've got things going on in their mind that's just disrupting their body physically as well. And one of the things that I talk about in the book is that is causing soul sickness with people is unforgiveness. Maybe somebody's hurt you, maybe somebody's wronged you in some way, and you're hanging on to it. Well, that unforgiveness that you're hanging on to can actually physically make you sick, and there's actually been studies done to prove that and show that. And so, I encourage people all the time that you've got to address those issues if you want to be better physically. If you want to be healthy all the way around, you've got to address the soul, and you've got to address the spirit as well. With the spirit, one of the things that we talk about there, and there's all kinds of research that shows the validity of having a strong spiritual life when it comes to our health. It's so important, and there's all these studies that show that prayer, meditation, volunteering, serving, helping other people, things that from a spiritual standpoint that just do wonders for our health. And I've seen it happen. I've experienced it myself, and so I know that it does make a difference. But that covers them. Covers all seven, and keeping all those in balance in our life. That's, in my opinion, that's the key to total health.
And I agree. When I look back at where I started and saying, okay, well, I've done this really good job of getting this career going and running, and it's all gangbusters. But as far as kind of the rest of the whole formula for my life, I'm like, I'm failing at everything else, and so this is a pale win when it's all said and done, because in the end, I'm not happy. I'm not living, and so I really like that. Now, the book, How to Live Until You Die, goes through each one of these, which I really kind of like, of just having executable things. And we don't have time during this podcast to go through all of them, but I do want to circle around two that obviously for a personal trainer would be top of mind. The first one is nutrition. And you put forward kind of some very good basic nutrition rules. Could you kind of go through that? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, well, one of the major rules with nutrition, as I've mentioned with the supplements, is the toxins, is the things that we're putting in our bodies. I talk about 7 big toxins in the book, and toxins that we need to avoid. And there's all these foods that we have, especially today, are loaded with toxins, unfortunately. chemicals, chemical preservatives, artificial sweeteners, and that's one of the big things I tell people. You've got to avoid those artificial sweeteners in particular because of the what we call neurotoxic effects of those, and how they affect our nervous system and can cause disruption in the nervous system. So avoiding those is extremely important. A lot of people don't know, when it comes to healthy eating, what healthy really is. It's funny because I ask people all the time, okay, well, tell me about your eating. Oh, I eat healthy. I eat good. And then they start telling me what they're eating. I say, wow, they're deceived. They don't understand what it is, what healthy eating means, and what good nutrition really is.
Well, but it's hard. It's hard because the food companies are really, really awesome at marketing. And saying, all natural, healthy, fat free, and when you get done with it, you're like, okay, well, what's actually in it? And that takes some work. That takes some effort to really understand what you're eating. And so it is an education aspect of knowing, because, there's no one that really sits there and says, this is how to eat unless you want to do the research.
Yeah, that's right. Well, one of the things I encourage people to do is eat what's called real food. Stay away from the processed foods, the stuff in boxes primarily, and eat real food. A lot of people say, when you go to the grocery store, stay along the outer parts of the grocery store, along the walls, stay out of the aisles. Where all the produce, the dairy, the good stuff is. The real foods are along all the walls in the corners in the stores. But eating more real food is real important, and as fresh as we can get it is the best way to go. And encourage people to buy from local farmers if they can. Those are great things that they can do. And then eating balanced meals. Balance is one of the things that we talk about with nutrition, and eating those balanced meals, and trying to stay on a schedule with meals, where you're eating at scheduled times, keeping the body's metabolism going. It makes a big difference. And a lot of people, especially here where we live in the South, diabetes is a major problem, and having those balanced meals is extremely important. Having the healthy snacks in between meals is extremely important for controlling blood sugar. Whether you got diabetes or not, controlling your blood sugar is something that we all should be striving to do for weight maintenance, body composition, and just energy, just feeling good. A lot of people are dealing with energy problems because they're not eating enough, or they're going too long between meals, and so that's a major problem there. And when they learn to do that, and people start eating more balanced, eating more on a schedule, more regular, getting nutritious foods, when they do that, they're going to start feeling better. They're going to have more energy. They're going to feel like exercising. They're going to feel like getting out, taking that walk, and doing the things that they need to do. And another thing that we talk about with the nutrition part of the chapter, Alan, is doing a what we call a genetic assessment, a DNA assessment for your nutrition. It's a new field of medical practice out there, so to speak. It's called nutrigenomics, where we look at the genetics of a person to determine what is best for them nutrition-wise, what types of foods they should be eating based upon the DNA results that they have, and based upon their propensity toward a certain health problem in the future, possibly, or a health condition maybe that's showing up there that they may possibly be at risk for diabetes, or be at risk for cancer, be at risk for osteoporosis. And so these genetic assessments can give a person guidance there in what to eat and how much they should be eating of these certain kinds of foods to keep the body getting the nutrients that it needs to help prevent those kind of problems down the road, hopefully.
Yeah, and I agree. Information is power, and in no time in history have we had such a huge opportunity to have ourselves tested. Get blood tests to see if you're deficient in any kind of vitamins, get a DNA test to understand if maybe you have a propensity towards insulin resistance and need to lay off the donuts, or maybe you have a gluten intolerance that you never really knew about, or maybe you're lactose intolerant, and really, the effects haven't been that big on you to date, but just understanding why maybe a day after you have some of that cheese, you just don't feel as peppy, don't feel as good, and it's because your body really isn't designed for that food. So understanding yourself and kind of testing this out and really knowing are really great opportunities. And like I said, we've never had an opportunity in history like we do right now to just know more about ourselves than we've ever had, and so it's a huge opportunity, and it's not that expensive. I mean, really, $99 or $200, you can go out and get a full panel and really know a lot more about yourself and some of the hereditary factors and things that are going to be affecting you and your food.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I preach that all the time. So thank you for saying that. Yeah.
Well, and again, it's just huge information. So, and I also encourage people to get as much information as they can about themselves, so they're making these decisions based on science and not necessarily, oh, well, this worked for my Aunt Sally, so I'm going to try this new thing.
Yep.
Now, you also, the next one I want to get into was the next one in news. Obviously, is exercise. And I really like your approach to this. So could you take a little bit of time to talk about exercise?
Yeah. Well, my approach to exercise, as I mentioned a moment ago, is to keep it simple. Find something you like to do. People try to make exercise too complicated a lot of times, and I love fitness. I work out at least 5 days a week. I've got a personal trainer that I work with, and I'm a big proponent in staying fit and taking care of my body. But there are people with limitations. There are people who have various restrictions, but they can do some simple things, and that's what I encourage people to do. It doesn't have to be a strenuous exercise program, but it can be some type of physical activity. Keep it simple, and be consistent with it. One of the things that I encourage people to do is to get somebody to help them, get somebody to push them along, get somebody to hold them accountable. And if they need a workout partner, or if they need somebody that take walks with them or whatever, do that. And just key in on doing something and do it consistently, getting up and moving every day, making it part of your daily routine. And that's what I was telling somebody the other day. So I can't exercise, I don't have that. Well, you got to schedule it. Make it part of your schedule. Make it part of what you do. We schedule things in our lives all the time.
Yeah.
But we don't schedule exercise all the time.
Well, it's the way I put it like this. I said, okay, if you told your wife that you were going to pick her up at the airport at 5:00, guess where you're going to be at 5:00.
That's right.
And if you make that same commitment to yourself, and you put it on your calendar, it pops up on your phone and says, guess what? It's 4:30. Grab your gym bag and get busy, because you said you're going to be there at 5:00. There are these huge opportunities for you to make it almost natural, almost like a habit, because it's just something that you just do and it's on your schedule. So there's nothing else popping in there to interfere with that. If you protect it the same way you would protect a meeting with your wife or a meeting with your boss, that you're just not going to cancel. You just don't cancel that. You go do it.
Right. That's right. Yep. It's on my schedule. 6:30 in the mornings, 3 days a week. I'm meeting with my physical trainer. I'm in the gym meeting with my trainer. The other days of the week, I've got a routine or something that he gives me to do, and I do it. And of course, I take a day and sometimes 2 days off during the week, depending on what I'm doing. But it's something you got to do. Just schedule it. And another thing too that I talk to people about, Alan, that a lot of times people get started. They get started with programs of some kind, and they quit. They quit because it's not right for them, or they quit because they injure themselves. So I tell people, you need to know what you're physically capable of doing, and don't try to overdo things, and find what works best for you. And I encourage people to at least talk to a trainer. If you can't afford to hire one, get one session with a trainer. They could come see you and learn what they need to do as far as technique, because that's what happens a lot of times. People use wrong technique, they do the wrong things, they start something, and because they don't know what they're doing, they hurt themselves, and then they can't work out, then they can't exercise, and they quit, and then once they heal, they don't go back to it. So I encourage people that are listening, to talk with a trainer, talk with somebody that can give you the right information, that can help you do things right, so that you don't end up injuring yourself. And if you can't afford a trainer, then learn from one, learn from somebody, and start doing what you can on your own. And it makes all those things can be done. And people have the wrong mindset sometimes about exercise. And I'll tell you something funny. I was at a diabetes coaching course that I took a couple of years ago. It's a certification course in coaching pre-diabetics. And they told us there at this course, they said, don't talk to people about exercise. Don't use the word exercise. That's a dirty word. Call it physical activity. It sounds more appealing to people. So if you want to call it physical activity, call it physical activity. But just whether you call it exercise or whether you call it physical activity, you need to be doing some kind of activity to keep your body healthy and physically strong.
I think the word I like is called training. And like I'm currently training to do a Spartan Super next weekend. And I've been working with a personal trainer myself, just someone that's going to push me a little harder, get me stronger. I could have done it all myself because I know myself well enough, but I'm like, if I have to go there and he's there, and he's an ex-Marine, so just a younger guy, kind of pushed me a little bit further than I would do by my own. That's kind of my approach there. And I just look at it as training, and beyond training for an event, which you could if you want to get into a sport, biking, running, triathlon, whatever, that's great. Or it can just be training to spend time with your granddaughter, because again, it's the same thing. You're lifting, moving, walking, running, whatever with your granddaughter. Yeah. You're going to need to have the same body, that you have when you did it when you were a mother, so to be able to be fit enough to do the things that you want to do in your life, you need to train. Yeah,
that's awesome. I love it. You're exactly right. I'm going to start using that. I appreciate that.
So the book is How to Live Until You Die. Again, love the title, and it's all about balance. The book gives you the full acronym news, and so you can kind of go through each one, do a self-exploration, and then, of course, Dr. Phil, you give us some great advice, some actionable tips, which is, again, my favorite. It's nothing esoteric of, do this woo-woo stuff. It's okay, this is how you execute on this, and this is how you know what you need to do, and this is how you approach it, and I really appreciate that. If someone wanted to get in touch with you, learn more about the book or what you're doing, where would you like for me to send them?
Yeah, they can go to my website, carsonnatural.com. We've also set up a website for the book, How to Live Until You Die.com. And I appreciate you asking me that, Alan, because this summer, all throughout the summer, we're going to be doing promotion things on the book. We'll be doing some giveaways and some fun things with the book. They can go to the website, check some of those things out. We'll be talking about it on my podcast, the Feeling Good podcast. Also, my Facebook live show that I do every Friday called Feeling Good Fridays. So if people want to find me, that's where they can find me, and find out about what we do at Carson Natural, how we coach people holistically and naturally, and the book can be found either place.
All right. Well, this is episode 264. So you can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/264, and you can find all those links there to Dr. Phil and all that he's doing. So again, Dr. Phil, thank you so much for coming on 40 Plus Fitness.
Well, thank you, Alan. I really appreciate it. Been an honor to be with you today, and thank you so much for the opportunity.
I want to take a moment to thank you for being a part of 40 Plus Fitness. If you're still listening to this, then I know you're one of my hardcore fans, and I really do appreciate you being a part of the podcast, being here each week and listening to these lessons and listening to the experts that I'm able to interview. It's really an honor to be with you and to put these things together for you. I'm learning a lot, and I hope you are too. And I really also appreciate that you're sharing this with friends and family, doing ratings and reviews and all the things that you do for me, because it really does tell me that you care about this program. And as I see it growing, it does give me kind of that little boost to say, I know that I'm doing some good for you, and I want to keep doing that. Now, next time on the 40 Plus Fitness podcast, we meet Jacques Devore and Roy Wallach and discuss their book, Bicycling, Maximum Overload for Cyclists. It's a book about cycling, but it really is more just about a book about people who want to perform very well at endurance sports. He just happens to write about cycling. So I think this is a great opportunity for you to learn. I hope you'll come back. And until then, have a happy and healthy day.